There we go. I love the squeaking toy in the background.
Oh, I got the dog.
Okay. Not as if your evening couldn't get any weirder. Welcome to the Black Powder Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Marcus Matthews, the only real libertarian, where we talk about libertarian stuff, as this is the only truly libertarian podcast in the history of mankind. Thank you very much for acknowledging that.
Yep.
And as
all the other ones stink, and we hate
all
them.
the other ones are far from being
trash, straight trash.
Yeah, and I can say that with the absolute confidence of that. If you dispute that, I still got 2-3 more years of hands left. We could go hands.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do, bro. I'm nice with these.
And you got 2 or 3 years left in your garage by yourself, like you were doing right there.
Quite possibly, but let's not mix and match other.
I hold on, Marcus. I'll make it very clear. I'm not dogging you out. I tell people all the time, I don't fight anymore. I'm done. I'm 51. I'd like to think I have like 30 seconds of all go in and get you. But then I start doing something for 30 seconds. I go, I don't think I have 30 seconds anymore. And so I just carry a gun. I tell everybody, listen, I'm not fighting you. I'm shooting you.
Well, there it is. I mean, because that's the way when I say I had 3 or 4 more years left, I still think I got a couple left hooks and the right uppercut. The Mike Tyson. Because Mike Tyson went 2 to the body, you drop him, and then you do the uppercut. And speaking of uppercuts, I'm going to uppercut to my other host, Tub. Tub, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, sir. Listen, I feel like we've already had enough conversation from before we came live that I feel like I could leave it any minute now.
Well, that's my understanding. We got to keep this thing short tonight because Tub and Eric have to get out of here because they're old and soft. And
you're older than us.
But I'm off work tomorrow, so I got all night. And then we got my other guy, Eric, here. Eric, how you doing? What's going on?
I'm hanging out here in North Kakalaki. Let's welcome our guests and get this thing rolling.
Okay, one moment here as I do my little... Tonight, we're sponsored by the Black Powder Podcast. I would like to invite everybody to go out there, watch it, like it, subscribe, all that good stuff across many platforms. And tonight we have a success story that we are bringing to you. This is an individual. Say what?
Hey, I'm sorry. Before you get to it, because I want to, but can we be self-sponsored? Is that a thing?
It is if you are, because I kind of sponsored my life by going to work. So yes, you can be self. Most Americans, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. At any rate,
sorry.
Back to our guest, our distinguished guest, who recently won a school board election in the great state of Texas, in the El Paso region. And this is the individual, while didn't go by name, went by symbolism, is one of us. He's not me, the only real libertarian. Thank you. Thank you. But he is a libertarian nonetheless. And with that, we want to welcome into the studio Ryan Woodcraft. How you doing, sir?
What's going on, gentlemen? Glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. Not so much Tub and Eric.
No, we're happy to have him too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're very excited. Very excited.
Well, Tub apparently walked right past Ryan because he's all this big bad libertarian guy from Jacksonville at the National Convention last year. Ryan was humble enough to extend his hand of friendship. Tub smacked it away and says, I'm here.
Not hard. No, I didn't smack it. That's not true.
What was the...
I did not smack it away. I merely pushed aside.
You just pushed it aside. With your entourage. He was like, remove this gentleman from my
presence. To be fair, Tub used the backside of his hand, slid me to the side while yelling, Duval?
Actually, that would have all been Eric. I hate that Duval. I hate that Duval thing. So that would have been Eric. So maybe you confused Eric and I, because we do look a lot alike.
Yeah.
You all look alike to me.
Yep. We both
look like Marcus. I hear you.
Homes, apparently.
All right. So
we have a purpose here. It's not us.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know Ryan, we're going to pass the baton to him in order for him to explain who he is, and what he does.
Oh man, you guys messed up. You gave me an audience and a microphone. But for all of those listening in, my name is Ryan Woodcraft. I do live here in El Paso, Texas. We are far west Texas, as far as you can get. We kind of bump right up against New Mexico and Mexico. So we are a tricultural region, one community, two nations, three nation states. I just won literally 120 hours ago a seat on the Socorro Independent School District Board of Trustees, representing one high school feeder pattern. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, right? There ain't no golf claps here. If you're gonna do it, so a bit of background about me. I am not originally from Texas. I'm originally from Michigan. I was born and raised there. Joined the Army at like right out of high school. The intent was to do 3 years in the Army and then get out and go to college. But I was in basic training in September of 2001. And for those that know the time frame, that was an interesting month in our nation's history. And the literal course of the entire world changed. So fast forward, I retired here in El Paso after 21 years of active duty in the Army. My family fell in love with this community, and we immediately started getting involved. As of yesterday, we'll see how this shakes out. Currently serve on 2 City of El Paso boards appointed by 2 separate city council representatives. I serve on the city's Ethics Review Commission and also the Bond Overview Advisory Commission. Non-elected positions, but being appointed by city council representatives. So for those that want to get involved in local government, that is an easy way to get in. You just get involved, and you can start making those viewpoints heard at the local level. And then about 2 years ago, I got really upset at the amount of waste and irresponsibility that our county commissioners in El Paso County were spending with. They maximized our property tax rates. At the time, El Paso County had the 3rd highest property tax rate in the nation, with about a 20% poverty rate and about a $55,000 median income. It was not uncommon for households in our community to have over $3 worth of taxation for every $100 worth of value on their home. And about the median home price was around $240,000-ish. So I'll let the mathematicians do the math. I won't do it in public. In addition to maxing our property tax rates, the county commissioners gave themselves a 16% pay raise, taking their annual salary to just over $133,000 a year, rivaling our U.S. Congress representatives at the time. And I lost my collective mind and decided to run against the status quo and give people a financial responsible choice on the ballot. I was a libertarian candidate in a 3-party race in an 80% Democratic county, and still brought in, for those that follow libertarian politics, what I believe to be true, and if you find it different, please let me know. I brought in 6.81% of the vote, which was the highest percentage of the vote by a 3rd-party candidate in a 3-party race in the nation. And we immediately rolled that momentum and the lessons learned into a school board race on the exact same platform. Financial responsibility by our taxing and governing entities, and tie in some of the additional, educational requirements, providing quality education, supporting teachers, being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And this time we brought home a victory, 56-44 on election night. And I take the seat about this time next week. And I look forward to getting started.
That's excellent.
So that's great. That's great. So you kind of hit on it. So what was the race you ran the first time? What was the position? Was that a county commission race?
County commissioner. Yeah.
And that was a partisan race, right?
It was. I was a big L libertarian on that ballot.
Gotcha. And I don't know if you could, I know when you were running, did they restrict you from putting the word libertarian on anything this run when you ran in a nonpartisan race? Like, could you use the word libertarian on literature? Or did you have to avoid it at everything you did?
Honestly, I didn't even really look into it. I left the name libertarian off.
Gotcha.
However, being the vice chair of our county libertarian party, as well as running as a big L libertarian previously, I didn't have to advertise it.
Gotcha.
People already knew. To include the day after the election, someone, because I've yet to see the email, but I've been told about it by numerous friends, someone from the Democratic Party of the county sent out an email titling me as a far a far right extremist libertarian who would want to see it on the SISD school board. So
That's awesome.
it kind of makes me wonder if they know what libertarianism is or if they've ever talked to me, because neither of those things are true. But I'll take the free publicity, man. I'm not even mad.
Well, yeah, that's the publicity is what I was saying was awesome. I just want to interject one point, and then I'm gonna pass the mic to whoever wants to go next. There's no such thing as a nonpartisan race in America anymore, because even where I live, in the very local elections, every candidate gets endorsed by the duopoly, one or the other, from school board, city council, whatever it is, county commissioner. Everybody is getting endorsed now. So the whole moniker of a nonpartisan race is a fallacy. It doesn't exist, and libertarians should understand that fact if we're going to do these local elections. Whoever's next.
Yeah, and I think, you know, 2 lines on that. What nonpartisan really means is that there isn't a letter or a party name next to your name on the ballot. That's all it really means.
Yeah.
Right. And in Texas, we don't have straight ticket voting anymore. So you have to pick everybody individually or not at all. And what I really learned this race when it came to the endorsements is, yeah, the money's nice, but the endorsements don't matter. My opponent took every single endorsement there was to be had, he took, and the money with it. And I still beat him by 12%.
So that's pretty impressive that he got. Did you get any endorsements? Because you said he got all the endorsements. I know you got some. Can you talk about some of the endorsements you got?
Yeah, I really didn't. The one that I thought would be a kiss of death, because it is a nonpartisan race, but the county GOP sent out a Facebook post and an email that recommended me in that race. And generally speaking, if you get endorsed by the Republicans in an 80% Democratic county, it is not going to end well for you. But look, man, for those of us that are real libertarians, you know that if we're going to get anything done, you have to talk across all aisles to all parties. I talk to the East Side Democrats. I talk to the GOP. I talk to the realtors. I'll talk to everybody. You know, I went into teachers unions and had conversations with them knowing I wasn't going to get their support. But I stayed true to principle. I stayed true to message. And at the end of the day, the voters showed out. And we took home a win.
That's awesome.
That's kind of the thing here at the Black Powder Podcast, because, you know, we've had Republicans on here and people were like, why are you having Republicans on there? And I simply replied to them, we listen to everybody. And that's what has to happen. There has to be that open line of communication. Even for a person like myself, I listen to Tub. And as much as
sometimes
as excruciating,
I'm waiting for that time when he listens to Tub, but go ahead.
As excruciatingly painful as it is to listen to Tub, I do that because I want to be a holistic, well-rounded individual.
And I will make you well-rounded. I will make you better. You should listen more often. So, all right. So I'm going to ask you all the basic questions first, but I will say this. Actually, I'm just going to ask all the questions, and then we'll get into the other type. So, with your current role now with the school board, first off, why school board? Why was that your next run?
To be honest, school board was my first choice, and I diverted when I ran for county commissioner. I have 2 children in the local public school system. My oldest is a freshman at Pebble Hills High School. And I don't think we've talked about this yet. So does anybody watch college football by chance?
Yeah, I do.
I'm in Florida. I mean, come on.
Yeah. All right. So for those of you that are traditionalists like me, the Rose Bowl game is probably the second biggest game of the college football year for me, behind the game where Michigan wallops Ohio State, no matter where they play. Right. And so my son is a freshman this year at Pebble Hills High School. And that marching band was the first band from the city of El Paso to march in the Tournament of Roses parade in Pasadena, California.
Sweet.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was
fourth largest economy in the United States, by the way.
Say again?
4th largest economy in the United States.
What, El Paso?
No, California. I just want to put that out there. That's my new thing.
You know, it's a shame that's all you have to hold on to. That's the only thing California has.
You get in where you fit in, bro.
That's it.
You get in where you fit in.
And it's mostly because of government.
A pros and cons checklist. You got one pro, and maybe the view, maybe the weather,
and in and
other
out.
than
We got
earthquakes.
two pros. Okay,
In and out's in Texas now. Ain't there some in and out in Texas? I think
yeah,
there is.
there's one in Dallas, I think.
They're coming in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're
slowly.
losing that now too?
Yeah, that's why we're just gonna stick to the fourth largest economy.
Fourth largest
Yeah.
economy that government supports. Okay, so school board was actually a decision for you, because you find a lot of times that when people are running, especially like city council or similar, when they don't get it, school board's like their next option. Or sometimes if people are trying to get their name known, they'll do a school board type thing because they're looking at the next office basically. So for
Right.
you were kind of like, no, you kind of went the other way.
That's
You'd
the
rather
one.
be on school board.
Yeah, school board was my original intention because it impacts my day-to-day life with my kids. It wasn't until the county commissioner's court infuriated me by maximizing our property taxes, giving themselves a pay raise, issuing hundreds of millions of dollars in non-voter approved debt, that I went, this is ridiculous. And I realized I had two options. I could whine and cry and complain on Facebook, or I could do something about it. And so I did something about it.
So you said you could be a libertarian, or you decide to go do something about it, is what you're saying. So we can whine online, or we can go do something. Once you do something, though, you kind of lose some of that libertarian attitude.
That's personal attack you get to be.
So how long is your term, and how many terms can you run for?
4 years, no limit.
Oh, really? So
He's
you
a
can
no
just
limit
stay.
soldier.
I could just stay. And in the state of Texas, however, those are unpaid positions, right? So it is all volunteer for school board.
Is that
So and how many people are running in your race? Just the two of you?
I'm sorry, I caught Eric and Tubb at the same time. Who's first?
Go ahead, Eric.
No, you go ahead, Tubb. You finished yours.
Okay, I'm going then. How many people in your race? There was two of you in your race?
Yes.
And what was the other candidate? Now, did the other candidate have a background running in politics, running locally or anything?
No, but very business heavy, board heavy. Lots of like C-suite level experience. Very well connected. And I'm really actually pretty friendly with my opponent in that race. And to be completely honest, if I wasn't running, I probably would have voted for him. He was generally a good dude with a good background. We just happened to be on the same line of the same ballot.
And so,
Yeah.
what party would you put him in? Since I know it's nonpartisan, where would he fall?
He had quite a big following of Democrats.
Okay,
So
and what was your big difference between the two of you?
Honestly, not much.
So hold on.
So how did you win?
So you're telling me that as the libertarian who's running for school board, you're aligning with the Democrat?
Nope, because there wasn't
Okay.
there wasn't much difference in what we wanted to accomplish. Our goals were the same. We wanted financial responsibility. You know, our school district's about 6 months away from financial exigency, which is the public version of bankruptcy. You know, we're laying off up to 300 teachers to try to balance the deficit. It's bad. And he's got kids in the system and he wanted to fix it too. The biggest difference really being is that I had more depth of my platform. He had a lot of campaign lines and slogans, right? But there was no deep substance. Now, when you talk to him, great guy, great heart, but it was very topical. And to be completely honest, the biggest difference between him and I is I put in more sweat equity. I rang over 2,000 doorbells. You know, we sent 5,000 text messages. We did the work. You know, he came in a little bit late, didn't do much for the first month of the race, and dumped $8,000 into it in the last 3 weeks. And when you're knocking on doors for 10 weeks, that's hard to make up, you know?
So was your main thing just financial? Like, hey, we got to get this straightened out financially?
That was the number one bullet. Number one was financial responsibility. Quality education is number two, and then transparency and accountability.
So you didn't take the libertarian seat of, hey, we're fixing to shut this down?
That falls under financial responsibility if you do it right.
Oh, all right. Go ahead, Eric.
No, that I think I was just trying to. I don't know. You got me with. You covered all of them. I'm good.
All right. So go ahead, Marcus, and then I'll get us into the other stuff.
I believe I just left Eric Parker speechless. We
appreciate that. Now, if you could just do what Marcus.
That never happens.
I am never speechless. I may be dumbfounded at times, particularly when Tubb scrambles my brain.
I said, even when you have nothing to say, you're not speechless, which we forget it. All right. So are you got something you're going to ask them? Because if not, I'm going to get into our other conversation.
What are your goals for fixing this malarkey you have at your school district? How are you going to go about that
It's a
process?
malarkey.
Yeah, we
Malarkey.
went to the malarkey. You know, we
That's
like to
an
say
Irish
that
word.
at least
I'm surprised
3
you didn't
times
know
per
that.
episode. Malarkey. And we're at 2.
Yeah, you went right to it tonight.
Oh,
All
I think
right.
we're at 4. We're good on the malarkey quota. So,
Well,
what are you going to
you
do?
know, I had my and so again, I'm not in the seat yet, right? And so I'm kind of in like political purgatory where I'm waiting to be able to do anything. Right now, I can still only talk about it. But I had an initial meeting with our interim superintendent this morning, and we covered kind of a lot of what my initial thought process is. Number one is we have to, at a minimum, balance the budget at the no new revenue tax rate. Have to, must. And I let them know up front. Anything outside of that is a no for me. If you try to present something with a deficit, I'm a no. If we can't have a surplus, which is preferred, the least we can do is balance the budget without asking the taxpayers to give us more money when we clearly cannot do what we're supposed to with the money that they give us now. The second part is we need to hire a permanent superintendent. Our current superintendent has been an interim for a year. The superintendent prior to him is probably one of the most corrupt individuals that we've ever hired to lead our school district. And he was let go with a pretty big severance package. And so in order to put our school district on the right track financially, we need obviously a balanced budget and some good financial responsibility. And we need the right leadership to guide us through the day-to-day operations. Without those two things, nothing else that we talk about really matters. You know, and there's some other items.
How far away are you from balanced?
Yeah. So we started this year with about a $40 million deficit. They're down to about an $8 million projected deficit. They're working a couple items.
Progress.
It is likely that we will reach a balanced budget for the next school year, but it requires a lot of cuts. The downside is we just took out a $35 billion tax revenue anticipation note, which is basically a government-backed payday loan, which already puts us at a deficit for next year that we're going to have to overcome. And all of this was done by the current board, right? So I get to get in the seat and then try to play catch up right off the bat.
And clean up the mess. Mm-hmm.
How does this happen? Because where I'm at right now,
voter apathy is how it happens.
Yeah.
Too many IT guys is how it happens.
That's horse plucking. We have one of the smallest.
Lay 'em off.
You know, full disclosure, as everybody knows, I work for a school district. We had a conservative takeover over our board. That's why I say there's no such thing as a partisan race, because all 5 sitting board members were endorsed by Calvary Chapel and the Republican Party. Current to date, since the beginning of the school year, they've spent $900,000 on lawsuits to push their conservative agenda, like being able to pray at the diocese or whatever. I mean, pray during their official acts as school board president. And on the surface, I don't have a problem with that under the guise of free speech, but that is not, government does not have free speech, is the way I see it. And you need to understand that when you're an elected official, you represent a lot of different people with a lot of different ideas, and liberty dictates that everybody, the greatest minority is the individual. And with that being said, that every individual has the right to have a representative government. And, you know, we do vote in the democratic process and whatnot, but at the same time, you don't get to pick and choose winners and losers. And that's what a lot of this thing with our current school board majority, they're picking winners and losers. And that's where I have a problem with them.
See, like,
So,
here's I don't know the situation of your school board and like if they're in a lot of debt like Ryan's situation, but if there was a conservative takeover and it's not a fiscally conservative takeover, it's pointless and it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, it's just virtue signaling at that point. Like, we took over, now whatever, we're gonna do all this stuff that probably should be the responsibility of parents to teach their kids, not the school board anyways. But I digress.
No, that's not a digression. That was a good point, Eric.
Ryan, does your position allow you to have input on the issues inside the classroom?
We approve curriculum changes,
Okay.
and that's about it. What we don't want to do is get involved in the day-to-day operations of each individual school, each individual classroom, each individual administrative process. We can direct the superintendent, we can direct the staff. But when it comes to curriculum, absolutely. When it comes to how individual teachers implement that curriculum, I'd rather not.
So how big is your district, like school-wise and student-wise?
The overall district or the district that I represent?
The one you represent specifically.
Yeah, we've got, so it's one high school feeder pattern. And so we've got Pebble Hills High School. We have a couple of associated elementary schools and middle school with that high school. And then I have a couple of elementary schools down south that are associated with a different high school. So I want to say we're at 6 total schools in District 2 that I represent.
And how big is the overall school for El Paso? Are you in El Paso?
I am, yes. So
Okay.
I live in El Paso. The district is Socorro Independent School District, and so it spans parts of Horizon City and Socorro as well. But the high school that I was elected to represent is a 6A school, which is the largest you can get in the state of Texas.
What's the graduating class size of that school? Do you know?
Yeah, we're right around like 850-ish.
Yeah. Woo.
That's a little bigger than the high school you went to, huh, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, my graduating class was 300. That's, not too much bigger, but we were like 2A, 3A or whatever. But 850.
Actually, that's actually bigger than I thought. You would have been.
No, I graduated from Fernandina. Yulee didn't have a high school.
Oh, there it is. Because where you lived didn't even have a high school. There it is. Okay.
Yeah, because we were so poor we couldn't afford one, so they bust us into the rich kids' high school.
You were part of the busing system. Okay, now listen.
Yeah, we helped bring down the property value on Lower Fernandina Beach taxes.
Like here come those Yulee kids. Okay, so now here's the problem. It was only like truly like a few years ago when I realized that I was part of the busing system. Like I was sitting there, I'm like, and all of a sudden, like it hit me. I'm like, wait a minute. I remember taking the bus way down across town, and there was a school right outside the projects where we lived. And I'm like, holy crap! I was one of those kids that they all taught. I was Marcus, basically.
Hey,
like, what is happening?
What the hell?
So,
all right,
Ryan, you're not me because I'm tall and sexy, and you're short and questionable. So you're not.
I'm 5'11".
You're 5'11". I was 5'11" when I was like 13, 14 years old.
Well, listen, because who knew that government cheese could make you that big?
And peanut butter. Government cheese and peanut butter.
I say that I was the one that had government cheese.
All right, let's get back on track here.
All right, so
Ryan,
did we get the things? Did we get the things answered? So we go to the next section that I want to bring up.
Not yet.
Ryan, okay, go ahead.
So could you describe the makeup of the school board? Like you represent essentially a district that feeds to one high school. How many different districts are in the school board? And do you have a vote that affects any other districts as a whole? And are there any like at-large seats? Could you describe the makeup there?
Yes. So there are 5 districts and 2 at-large seats. And any of our votes will affect the entire district, not just the district that we're elected to represent.
Gotcha. All right. Now, Tub, go ahead.
Okay. Marcus, are you good?
I just want to acknowledge this comment from my guy, Free. Make American government cheese again. Because
that's almost a MAGA hat, but with an extra letter.
Hey, if it's made in America, that means it's tariff-free, right?
I just want to point out one fact about government cheese. You can put it in the microwave, the oven, or on the stovetop. It will never melt.
Never melts.
You sweat. So
the oil comes out of it, basically.
There's nothing but oil comes out. Yeah. I don't know how they call it cheese because scientifically it may or may not be a dairy product, but nutritional value,
Kennedy would be clearing it out today.
Hey, Marcus, do you think if we like put a wick in the government cheese, it'd be like a forever burning candle?
You know what? If you're a survivalist, listen to me closely. Get your hands on some government cheese as soon as possible.
All right, well, wait. Go in your house real quick. Come out of the garage. Go in your house real quick. Go grab some, Marcus. Let's find out right now.
I'm not wasting my government cheese on you peons right now. So you can move on with your next question with all your stereotypical horse malarkey. Yeah, I had a
Listen,
horse to malarkey
I-
this time. We got a new one. We got a new term, horse
You
malarkey.
talk like that. It is tough being the only black man on this podcast. Like I'm struggling being the black man
It's
here.
not the
All
only.
right, so I need you
The
to.
black man.
All right.
You are our DEI. I'm the real black man.
Oh my!
You came in because
We
DEI lowered the
covered this
standard that
last
even you
week.
could get
We
in.
clearly
You-
covered this last week. I'm sorry, Ryan, for these outbursts
Yeah.
of shenanigans.
So
All right.
unprofessional. Oh my gosh.
I would have come.
Really
Listen,
quite unprofessional.
you know better for next time. Now, next time if they ask you, I'd be like, "No, dude, I got to give myself a home root canal rather than go on that show again."
Hey, wait,
And
wait a minute,
for-
Tub. Aren't you on? Are you smarter than a politician on Freedom Uncut tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night.
Oh, you're going to learn tomorrow night. You're going to learn. You're
Oh,
going
you
to
will
learn.
learn today.
Okay, great. Listen, we're gonna see how. Listen, I will if I have to. If it goes like it did for Marcus, I'll dip out in the middle of it. I'll just be like.
What are you talking about? I won. Free can attest to this. I won by big margins. Nobody's ever seen what I did.
That's quite a Trump thing right there.
Nobody has ever seen what I did on Are You Smarter Than a Politician podcast ever before. People are saying this was the greatest episode of Are You Smarter Than a Politician?
Until tomorrow.
I won. And here we go. Smapow. I
Smapow?
guarantee you Tub doesn't win. He doesn't win.
Hold on. What does that say? Did that say
I
Marcus
don't even
won?
know who this is, man.
So what do they do? Just whatever guest comes on gets to be the winner? Is that basically how that goes?
No,
Right here.
no, because I lost.
Buddy, right here.
Did you?
huh?
Oh, Eric, you were already on there?
Yeah, I was on the week after Marcus. I lost.
So it
Hey,
is my
loser.
understanding the
Second,
points
though.
don't mean anything anyway. It's basically whose
Yeah.
line is
No,
it
no,
anyway.
no.
It is.
That's see now you're lowering the bar for no particular reason because you're afraid you're gonna lose.
You were already there. The bar is not getting much lower.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
So-
that's the only way I was allowed in was they lowered.
It's
the
because
bar
Marcus
for
already
Marcus.
ruined it. Listen, we'll see how it goes. I already tried telling what's her name, Terry on there. I already tried telling her. I said, listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I says I've been kind of apolitical lately. Like I haven't been keeping up with anything. I'm just sick of all of it, and so I've kind of dipped out. So if they come up with
There you go.
anything that's anywhere near current, we're in trouble, dude. Like I'll
Yeah.
You
leave.
already lost
Yeah.
points.
Tub,
You're starting in the
You're
hole.
already 100 points in the negative before you even
Yeah.
go on the show,
That's
bro.
actually better than I thought it was going to be. What do we got? Who just is that? Joe just dropped me points already.
Joe's my guy. Joe, salute to Joe. Thank you very much for pointing out the obvious. Tubbs gonna lose.
Listen, I'm going to get on there and I'm going to find out when I get on because it seems as though I can get in the comments and I can give myself like 100,000 points from the start.
Or your
we'll
wife
make
could
it.
be in the comments. Just give you a
Yes.
bazillion.
Yes. All right, now
Dude.
I'm with Marcus. I want to bust up your score because I'm going to get my wife on there.
You know,
Of course, my
'cause
wife might
mine
go,
was
"That's
24.
stupid," and then she'll start taking points off of me.
Uh,
All right, can I move on now? We got
You
Ryan on
can.
here, and let's talk to Ryan.
All
Okay.
To be
So
fair,
he-
Tub, I know it's past your bedtime, so I'll let you answer the next.
Yeah, we got to wrap it up soon because both of these fogies. Oh, I can't stay home past 10 o'clock. Ah!
Hey, I'm on mountain time, man. I got a couple hours. I could do this for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'm off tomorrow too because I'm a government worker. Man,
What's your reason for being off tomorrow?
Yo, what's tomorrow?
I chose to.
Oh,
Yeah,
man, I
that's
got
what happens.
PTO.
You guys need to
I
work
don't-
for the government. You get your
I'm
tax
typical
dollars
government.
back.
I don't feel like
Don't
working.
abuse the system.
And you know what's worse? You won't be there, and nobody will know the difference.
They will know.
And that
Everybody
so
loves-
makes you the government employee.
Everybody loves me. Can we get back to Ryan? Because I'm
Oh,
really.
yeah, I'm trying, dude. I'm trying. You're the one.
You
This
interject
stuff.
first. Okay.
All right. All right. So here's what happened. All right. I'm going to give a little bit of background to the conversation so everybody knows what we're talking about. So when they mentioned about you coming on, they started discussing the office that you were in. So, yes.
Who's they?
Us.
Am I allowed to put everybody in this? I don't think he cares,
No.
does he?
Just
Uh,
I don't
if
know.
he didn't want you to talk about him, he should have been here.
I just want to make sure that I have a chance to defend myself. So
All right.
if you're going to talk
Me
All
and
right,
about
Marcus,
so-
room,
It
me,
was-
Marcus, Michael White, and Tubb.
Yeah, us three,
Michael White.
us three,
I love
and
Michael
Michael White.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where's Michael? Get him on this show.
Yeah,
He's sorry. He's a Republican.
We told him. I told him if he really liked you, he should be here. And guess what? He didn't show. No, I'm
And he,
saying
I
He-
will be.
he's
He really said
out
that.
of pocket. Yeah, I did say that,
You
but
really did say that.
he is in a remote location with no internet right now. So
I'm a fan of Michael White. That is a good dude.
yeah,
For security
so-
He was
purposes,
one of
he
the
is now,
hosts
as a Republican, he is now safely secured in a remote location.
Yeah.
All right, now continuing. So the four of us have this group text that we have going on, and they mentioned that you were going to be on, and the issue it came up about how it is a nonpartisan, and I didn't realize after we were going through the text for a while that I found out that it was unpaid, so I didn't even know about that. So the nonpartisan is where we kind of came in and we started kind of having disagreements, if you will. Okay, and
No, you
yeah, I
guys.
know. I know it's hard to believe. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. Listen, I only believe in honesty, unlike these other ones. So I'm going to tell you that how we're about to move forward. That Michael and I were in agreement. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where you were, Marcus. Eric was against us. Eric didn't like us in this one. I'm not sure where Marcus. I think Marcus says, "Hey, he was too afraid to jump in, and he just sat back at work and
I
so he
like
hid
white on
in a
white
locker or
violence.
something."
Oh, I was just kicking back, watching the white on white violence, and texting my black friends. They don't
Watching
get
the train
along.
wreck that ensued.
yeah.
Okay.
Marcus was screenshotting our conversation and put it on Black Twitter.
Yeah, it was like, look at these people. Look at,
Marcus, they let you on Black Twitter?
yeah, I was like 60-13 or some whatever the reciprocal value of. At any rate, go ahead.
All right. So what we started discussing was, and how it kind of played out was whether if you had to run as a libertarian for the position that you got specific, like, or for any of them, does running as a libertarian help or hurt you? And Michael and I were kind of like, we were in the thinking of you won despite having some of the libertarian on you, because like you said, you ran previously, so they all kind of knew. And then we did see some of the stuff that you put out, and I think yours had semblance of stuff of like libertarian type stuff. So you kind of maybe had the libertarian stink on you. Not sure. You can explain that also. And so our conversation, which comes around with us often, is, does the Libertarian Party help or hurt candidates? Feel free to go.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys saw my campaign logo, but the T in my last name is the Torch and Eagle, right? And so those that pay attention to politics will see it. And I had people at the polls that saw it and said, "Oh, you're libertarian." I am. Now with the nonpartisan race, when people would ask, well, what party are you? I would go back with the canned response, "Hey, sir, it's a nonpartisan race, right? There's no party labels on the ballot." He's like, yeah, I got it. Are you Democrat or Republican? I am neither. I'm libertarian. And that would usually drive more conversation. Here's where messaging matters, Tubbs. I can talk to anybody about the libertarian message. If I am talking to the Democratic side, I let folks know, yeah, I'd be a Democrat today, like JFK was a Democrat. But that party doesn't exist anymore. And so here's where I fit. And if I'm talking to Republicans, I can be like, yeah, I'd be a Republican like Ronald Reagan was a Republican. But that party doesn't exist anymore. So if you could find a way to take like this JFK Ronald Reagan hybrid, filter out the authoritarian statism, then that's where I fit, and that's why I'm here. Now, does the libertarian stink help or hurt? It depends on what level we're talking about. Our county party is still pretty small. We have very minimal influence. We're involved in some niche communities with some single issue coalition partners to try to advance, ideologies. But as far as being a power player in the community, I would say that we are not one yet. Right? We now have somebody in an elected position that we can leverage.
Boom.
We have probably one of the greatest.
Yeah.
We probably have one of the greatest state affiliates from the Libertarian Party here in Texas. I would put them in the same ring as Indiana, Louisiana. It's just, they're phenomenal. We have some great support from the chair, our vice chair, who is now Region 7 rep, Paul Darr, who is now the vice chair of the National Party. We have some great communicators and graphic artists in Amanda Gibbs and Nathan Polsky, and I don't want to name them all because I'll leave somebody out, but we have a phenomenal support team here in LP, Texas, and their social media team and their videos and their resourcing we're great. Fighting the stigma of the National Party is a daily struggle because the drama of some rogue affiliates and the lack of leadership and professionalism from our national party is abhorrent, and it definitely impacts candidates at the local level. And so there are some things that I would have to combat, usually by feigning ignorance. I mean, like, yeah, I can't control what the national party does, but here's what I can do today for our community. And I would usually just have to try to spin it. I am cautiously optimistic on the direction of the LNC. There are some people there like Paul Darr and Keith Thompson and Jesse Cowart that I trust immensely. And there are some people that I disagree with wholeheartedly that have no business being in our party. And so we'll see how current leadership, how they iron that out. I am not a dues paying member of the national party. I am of the state and our county affiliate, though.
We've had Paul Darr on here,
and Stephen Nikala,
and the new leadership. And I will state this as the official stance of the Black Powder Podcast, the only real libertarian podcast.
The only librarian podcast? The only real librarian podcast?
The only real libertarian.
We know that Dewey Decimal System better than anybody else.
But our past leadership at the Libertarian Party, particularly this last election cycle, failed the Libertarian Party miserably. And there is no undercutting that fact, because this was a grand opportunity. And I spoke to this for 2 years prior to 2024. That was a grand opportunity for the Libertarian Party to make its mark, because nobody wanted Joe Biden and nobody wanted Trump. Nobody wanted Kamala. And for us to fumble that opportunity was a direct correlation to the lack of leadership that the Libertarian Party had during that election cycle. And I think it was purposely sabotaged when you invite other parties to your national convention. Republicans don't do that. Democrats don't do that.
Marcus, I lost volunteers and donors because we invited RFK and Trump to our national convention when I was running for county commissioner. Like, that happened.
Yeah.
And that right there is what so many people inside the party are trying to say. It doesn't affect anything, or it didn't affect anything, or anything that's going on at national, or any of these other things. Because so like Eric and I, we ran locally here for city council. And as we were running, because it was a partisan race. And so as we were running, we had to spend most of our time, first off, explaining who libertarians are, because they didn't even know we existed, basically. And then the ones who did, because they do follow a little bit, it was nothing good that, they come at us with stuff that nothing to do with us, nothing to do with like Eric and I, or not even really the local affiliate, but just bigger than that, and usually national, or the different state parties stirring things up, and they'd heard about it somewhere on Twitter, and then we'd have to go around, and there were so many people in the party going, no, it's not going to affect you. That's only for the wins. And I'm like, no, it affected us. We had to go around and make answers for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are some significant negative actors, and I will not name their names because, quite honestly, they're not deserved of any additional publicity than they already give themselves. Right? But there are certain affiliates and personalities behind affiliates that have done nothing but tear this party down, and I refuse to be a part of that. I refuse. We can and should be better. Now, look, I know that some people view Chase Oliver as a divisive candidate. I don't. Chase is a friend of mine. I think he was based as hell. The positions that he had and the way that he delivered them were probably the most principled libertarian positions that I have heard out of a national candidate in years. Chase was not the issue. The vitriol thrown at Chase from within our party was the issue.
Oh, so I would say this about Chase.
Communicator.
I think all of us have personally met Chase. I think that's one of our common denominators, right? Everybody here is
couple times.
Chase.
No, I've never heard of him.
Okay, so
who is this Chase fellow that you all speak of?
I don't care what Tub does in his bedroom. I don't care what Eric does in his bedroom. I don't care what Ryan does in his bedroom. I don't care what any of you guys do in your bedroom. And I don't want people to care what I do in my bedroom. So
we don't even want to think about what you do in your bedroom.
It would be impressive for you to watch. I'll just leave it there.
I thought that was illegal.
What?
It's not. Well, maybe in your state where you have to click that.
That's why you don't live. That's why you stay in California, because you do weird stuff.
Hey,
Quite possibly, but that's neither here nor there. But
keep
with
this
Chase,
zero.
if you actually listen to what he had to say, it was all in your best interest. And that's what America does not understand about the Libertarian Party. This is all in your best interest. When we end this show, we say live free or die. That is a grand umbrella of liberty that most people don't want to understand. And I blame the public education system that Ryan and I are
Woodcraft's
responsible
gonna
for.
fix that.
He's gonna
all
start,
states.
he's gonna fix that locally.
There we go.
And we brought him on tonight because he's going to be the catalyst for this movement of fixing public education. And he's going to do it nationwide, which is going to extend to the 51st state of Canada and the 52nd state of Mexico. Ryan is going to be the one that leads us to the promised land. And Ryan, I want to thank you. At this moment, we're not done yet.
I said, are we done? I got questions.
No. But Ryan,
Hey,
tell us what you're going to do as the Libertarian board member, non-paid, non-partisan position, but you won an election.
But,
what do you?
Okay, hang on. I want to add to what you're saying. There is, if it was partisan, and you ran as Libertarian, would you have won still?
It would have been a lot closer than it was.
So you're saying that
Look, the voters, right? And I don't want to compare the two races, but the voters that I talked to in the county commissioner race, where Republican, Democrat, and Libertarian are on the ballot, the message resonated. But I don't use the word libertarian on any of my campaign material at all, because in partisan races, you're automatically labeled as, I'm not voting for you because you're not Democrat, you're not Republican. I want the message to spread, right? And then a byproduct of that is the party to grow and kind of, folks become more accepting of that. So I had people come out of the polls for the county commissioner race and said, I have never voted for a libertarian before, but I voted for you because you get it. When you take that into a school board race, we physically outworked my opponent. And I say that no ifs, ands, buts, second guesses, or qualms. We put in more work than he did. He out fundraised us. He out endorsed us. He had prettier products than we did, but we put in the sweat equity and we talked to the voters. So much so, and I will not use names of people or organizations, but there were some teachers' organizations that endorsed my opponent. There was one that supported me with volunteers, not so much with products and endorsements, but a teachers association that was phenomenal, was supporting me at early voting locations and some other things. There was a gentleman that belonged to a local teachers association who endorsed my opponent. When that gentleman saw who that organization endorsed, he reached out to a friend of his that belongs to the organization that supported me and said, who are you supporting? They sent him my info, and he said, that's the guy that came to my door. That's the guy I'm voting for. And this gentleman switched unions because I rang his doorbell and gave him the message of liberty and how that can apply to his profession as a teacher and our public education system as a whole. So awesome. If there were party labels, Democrat, Libertarian, Republican, Libertarian, on a school board race, I think I still would have won, but it wouldn't have been by 12%. Right? I think it would have been a much narrower margin.
Now, here's the thing where Michael and I were fully in agreement that we basically were saying you won that race and it had nothing to do with the Libertarian Party. In fact, I think I put in there at one point, I said, I think he won it despite the Libertarian Party. So was the Libertarian Party there to help you, or did you find that you got more help outside of the party?
Depends on the level, right? Local level with local messaging, local volunteers, absolutely big help. And I say that because I'm part of the local party, right? I'm the vice chair. So I can kind of control some of that. Fundraising, volunteers, that type of stuff. State party significantly helped with messaging. Significantly helped with fundraising. And members of our state party, they do not live in El Paso, but continued to donate and spread the word. From the national party perspective, if I'm going to be completely honest, if it wasn't for Joe Hanush, the national party didn't do anything for me. right? And so some publicity from the National X account was about all I got. And to be quite honest, that's about all I needed, right? A little bit of a push, a little bit of some retweets on fundraising efforts, some comments back to some dissentents. But, I really didn't get much out of the National Party. And I don't want to be ungracious and say I didn't need it, because I'm very thankful for Joe and everything that he does with that National Party X account. He's been a phenomenal social media coordinator for them, or whatever the heck that role is. But the state party is phenomenal. I've got nothing but love for our state party and our local affiliate. But yeah, the National Party was not as helpful as I think they could have been, especially if they have a now renewed focus on local candidates winning races.
Yeah, I think that was all something they were just saying. I don't think they have a really big desire to focus on the local candidates as they say they were. Now, here's the thing, though, and part of what I had mentioned in the group was, I said, so I kind of, Eric's kind of a fan of Justin Amash, and in fact, Eric likes him a lot. Eric would put him up for most anything inside the party, and so the only issue I've ever had with Justin Amash is that he never had to run as a libertarian. And so he got in office as a Republican, and then he kind of switched around and never ran again as libertarian. And so what we were wondering is, you did run previously, as we found out, you ran as a libertarian, didn't go so well. You know what I'm saying? But once you...
That was great.
What's that?
That was a great run.
What was... Earlier, when you mentioned numbers, it dropped out a little bit. What was your numbers in your or your council race?
6.8% of the vote.
Okay. And so at 6.8, so you were still a ways away from winning that role, obviously.
Absolutely. In an 80% Democratic county, the Republican that got 38% had no chance of winning.
And so what we were wondering is that, because we saw, Eric and I have seen it also, about when you run locally and you run with that on you, you got to kind of fight against the other side of it all. You have to fight within the party too. And so we kind of noticed that you had that Justin Amash thing, that once he was able to run nonpartisan, and it was just, hey, here I am, here are my ideas, tell me what you think, and it worked. And so that's been kind of some of our argument, especially I think Michael and I are in our group. We're kind of more of a, it seems to be, if you truly want to be effective as a candidate, that you got to consider maybe not running as a libertarian in a partisan race, that you got to maybe consider not running. So if you were to run again in that nasty partisan race, would you consider, running Republican just to have that better chance?
No, if I was going to run in a partisan race and libertarian wasn't an option in this community, I would run as a blue dog Democrat.
Okay, so you would run out of party though. But let's say you have all three options available to you, but you're running in a partisan race. Do you stay with the libertarian, or do you kind of dip out and say, hey, I'm going to run in one of the major two, so I actually have a chance to win this thing?
No, the goal is not to get elected. The goal is to make a difference. I'm too principled to run something outside of my party. I'm a libertarian. And until the Libertarian Party leaves me like the Republican Party did about 15 years ago, I'm going to stay a libertarian. Now, if I want to set principle aside and the goal is to win, to enact legislature and policies that make a difference, and I have to set character and principle and integrity off to the side, if you win the Democratic primary in El Paso County, you win the general election. That's the way it is. And so if the goal is only to win, I would run as a Democrat because that gives you the best chance.
So then you're saying that you would run as a libertarian again, even though you know it's probably not going to be successful.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, what's the reason behind that?
Because I have too much principle, character, and integrity not to.
And I'm only asking you because they kept asking us. Why would you run as a libertarian if you know you're going to lose?
Yeah. No, it's who I am, right? Like I know who I am and whose I am, right? And I'm not going to kowtow to anybody else for some type of pomp, circumstance, and glory. That doesn't matter, right? I was made by a perfect God for a precise purpose with certain gifts, talents, and abilities that he did not give anybody else. And I'm not going to throw that away because partisan politics says you don't have a chance to win under that label.
Can I say this? And excuse me for what I'm about to say. That's the most American shit I've heard in a long time.
Hell yeah.
Where you stand on principle and understand that we are not the America that some people envision. We are the America of a duopoly that has corrupted this republic for the big interest of a few. At the it starts at the most local level, and I will credit that to Spike Cohen to the day I received my cremation. That he's one of the first people that I spoke to that about as far as being American and what America is supposed to be, and the principled fact that he will stand upon liberty rather than take the low road, the easy path, the well-worn path to success. It shows that this is the real American, and I salute you, sir. I want to thank you very much.
The narrow path. And we are going to need the VA lady virtual assistant service to clip that rant by Ryan so that we can post it. And I'm just going to send it to Michael White like once a week.
Hey, look, man, there's a couple of things that people tell you never to do, and that's mix politics, religion, and alcohol. But we're doing it right now.
Actually, I have politics, religion, and tea.
Well, right. I have one.
But here's
alcoholic
the thing.
beer.
I've
only had one too. This one right here.
I've had 2 non-alcoholics, but
I am a Christian. I am a Bible believing Christ follower. And as much as I want everybody in our country to believe the same way that I do, I refuse to use the government to force that on people.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, my Savior, bowed down in the Garden of Gethsemane and prayed until he bled, that if there was any other way to solve this problem of humanity, that he asked his Father to take this cup from him. But his will be done, not mine. And if the least I can do is stand on principle for individual liberty against the uniparty, then I'm going to do that because it's not going to cost me my life like it cost him his.
Tub,
Ryan's taking Tub to church right now.
Yeah, Tub. I saw Tub's demeanor change right now.
Well, because remember, I had to deal with that very same thing right there. I had to deal with the fact that because I am a Christian, I'm a pastor, and so I had to deal with that all the time because I'm a. Eric can attest to you that I'm pretty strict Christian, especially for my own personal life, and so I had to always deal with that even within the party. I had to deal with the fact that you can't be a libertarian and a Christian, and we still deal with that issue. And I'm like, I very much can, and like my goal was I want to. Here's what I said. Okay, you can probably appreciate this. So I was very clear. Says when the Apostle Paul went out, he never went and found political leaders and said, hey, you need to make these people act like Christians. What he did was he went out and he made disciples. And so then when you make disciples, areas change. Society changes. I said, so I have zero desire to go to government and have them try to push my faith. I've seen what government does to the things they're actually responsible for, and it's a train wreck. And I don't want them doing that to my faith. So I had to always walk that line and explain to them, say, hey, listen, and the thing is, I had to make such a hard stand repeatedly within the party. So even the party, the party of freedom, was the ones like, Tub, you can't really do those. I'm like, I have to keep explaining to you, I do not want government to force my beliefs. Because I've always said if we fall to any level of theocracy, what happens when it's no longer the Christians who are in control? Now now there's some other faiths. So I said, I've always been on the other side of it. And so there's always been kind of this struggle. And if you're kind of like me, there is still that struggle inside the party lately. Like for me, there are a lot of things that happen inside the party which don't align with my faith. And I keep trying to say there are sometimes I have to distance myself from the party because of the lines that they seem to be taking. And that's been my issue lately with the party itself and my faith.
Yeah. So, I mean, Tub, you get it, right? Like we can apply, and I don't want to overlap this too much because some people are going to get upset. But there's a point in the New Testament where the verb goes from, and he added to them daily, and it changes to, and he multiplied them greatly, right? When the adds, you now get multiplication. And that starts because of the Acts 2 model. When you meet in your homes and you break bread, and then you meet collectively, and then you spread, the adds turn to multiply. And so none of that. Hey, let's call a spade, Tub. The government is the devil's playground, and everything we are doing is slowing down the devil's work on this planet. Everything that we are doing to ensure liberty and freedom and prevent a new world order and the Antichrist, like we're actually kind of working against the coming of Revelation. And I'm okay with that because the principle remains the same. But there are things that I fight the same stuff where it's like, yes, people are going to live a lifestyle that I do not morally agree with and that I would not wish upon my family. But that is their right as a human, as an American, and it is my job as a believer to try to talk to them about how I believe, but not force that upon them, right? The other side of that is that the Bible calls us to police our own. Like we can't expect non-Christians to act like Christians and judge them. Our job is to police other Christians to make us more Christ-like while sharing the gospel and the good news to others, not judge them for their lifestyles, not condemn them for their lifestyles, right? Not throw them in cages for their lifestyles. That is not the goal. And I think too many people miss that part.
I would ask D to clip that segment as well, because that was very profound. That was like Paul going to the Romans and speaking right now. And, you know,
is that make you the Romans?
Possibly.
Marcus is the Romans in that one.
Hey, I was just going to say, everyone follow that Liberty Lady, follow the virtual assistant. She's great at that. If you got a podcast or a show you like, or just a video you see, you can probably send it to her and be like, hey, could you clip from here to here and send it to me? She's the boss of that. So,
all right. So, Ryan, we're going to start closing this out because Tub and Eric, these old people, they have to get going. So,
well, they can log on.
Well, actually, I'll pass it to the host first.
Hey, Marcus, if you want to stay, we could dip and y'all can enjoy the rest of the night.
Well, I'm good to go. So, Eric, do you have any closing remarks that you wanted to say?
One thing I didn't really get into, or maybe I missed in your introduction about your military career. What was your MOS? I know you retired as a chief warrant officer. Is that correct? Thanks, Chief. What was your job or career throughout the Army like?
Yeah, I was an air defender from start to finish. I came in as an E1 private working on the Sentinel radar crew. My first rotation stateside, I was part of the air defense unit that went from Killeen, Texas, at now Fort Cavazos, to the National Capital Region. You know, the 1 year anniversary of September 11th and the State of the Union, where we put live Stinger missiles in DC. I was part of that crew. 2 rotations to Iraq, 2 to Afghanistan, and I retired as an Air Defense Command and Control Systems warrant officer after a little over 21 years of service.
So just a little bit about me and why we're closely related. I did multiple training sessions at Fort Bliss, Texas, and I mobilized out of there to for Guantanamo Bay. So, and I pre-mobbed out of there for Iraq. So yeah, it's been. Were
you stuck on base, or did you get to visit the city?
We barely got to visit the city. We had like 1 weekend before deployment to Gitmo, and my girlfriend at the time, now wife, she flew down. Me and my brother were in the military together. We deployed together, same unit and everything. So his I don't know if they were married yet or not, but his girlfriend, who he's married to now, she deployed with us to Gitmo as well. It's a lot going on there, but we got like a weekend in El Paso. I went to like the Cattleman in the area.
In Favens, yep. Good steak there.
Yep. But we wanted to go to the casino, but my now wife, but girlfriend at the time, wasn't even 21. She couldn't get in.
You got yourself a child.
So we literally went to a fun spot and drove like go-karts, which was probably more fun. And we rode horses and we did all the things. So,
if all you got was one weekend, man, you missed out. El Paso is a hidden gem in the middle of nowhere. It is the nicest people and the best food you'll ever have. The worst drivers you'll ever be on the road with. But this community is something like nothing else. You are either going to fall in love and never want to leave, or you can't wait to get out, because we're literally a desert island.
Yep. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Appreciate it, Eric. Do you have to go?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta go.
We're gonna say goodbye to Eric. I want everybody to look at his face and understand your true blessings why you don't look like that. And
Before Eric goes, Marcus, can I just point out to the public, I'm still trying to figure out exactly why Eric looks like a libertarian garden gnome.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. He brought it up backstage before the show, and I thought it was hilarious.
If your beard color was my hair color, then there it is.
Yeah.
Then
I'm getting some gray. I'm getting some gray. Y'all see those?
And
wait till
the baby hasn't even shown up yet. Imagine what it's gonna be like.
I know. I don't even. Our kid's not even here yet. She'll be here in July. We're looking forward to it. So I'll probably be totally gray in a year.
Mine was the church. The church did it to me.
All right.
Mine
So
was
saying, don't open a church.
With Eric's. Thank you, Eric, for coming on.
Hey, Ryan, this was great. Marcus, Tubb, I'm sure we'll hear about this in the comments or in our text later. Y'all have a good
Eric,
one.
thanks for reaching out and inviting me, man. This was great.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. See y'all later.
Later. Tubb, Tubb just let himself out. I was like, hey, he had to go too, but I was going to give him a chance to say goodbye.
We're cutting sling, man. Cut the baggage. Yeah. Here we go. Let's move it on.
So, for everybody that's still watching and listening, how can they get in contact with you and find out more about you and what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and X, all at some form of Woodcraft for El Paso. So on X, that's at Woodcraft, 4 EP. On Instagram and Facebook, you can either search my name or Woodcraft for El Paso, whatever works. And if you want to find out more in depth for your reading pleasure, my website is woodcraftforelpaso.com. And you can find more about me, my platform, my background. If you've got a couple extra $1,000 laying around, there's a donate tab there too.
I would encourage everybody to donate to libertarians that are actually making a difference and have some successes under their belt, as well as those who don't, that are actually out there trying to make a difference. So we're not going to distinguish between those who won elections and those who didn't, but we are going to say we need to support those who have had success in their elections, like my guy Ryan from some parts of Michigan, moved to Texas. My home state, I was born in Texas, but I moved to the 4th largest economy in the world when I was like 3-4 weeks old. So I've been a native 4th largest economy guy since I hate saying it, since the 70s. And with that being said, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us. I hope we can get you back after you have taken your office and you can expound on what you have done to bring true government. And when I say that, as far as, we live in a republic and it needs to be of, for, and by the people. And that's what the Libertarian Party truly represents, is of, for, by the people, not the duopoly who are of, for, and by the corporations and who has the most money. I will say this in closing. Everybody has a lobbyist in your state capital and Washington, D.C., except the American people. Mm. And when you think about that, I want you to focus on who you're voting for, because the Libertarian Party is the only party that represents the people. And that's what the message that we have to get out. We have to get rid of these caucuses that are doing nothing but providing gasoline to the bullshit fire of the duopoly politics that we live in and whatnot. But do you have anything else before we get out of here?
No, man, I appreciate the opportunity. Every individual can make a difference right where they sit. Right? You don't have to change the world. You can change your community. And through changing your community, we can change the world. And so my charge to you is get involved. Get involved in your local party. Find an organization, whether it's, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, or an animal shelter, or I don't care. Find something and make a difference in your community. And through that, we can start to change the narrative and open people's eyes that there is a better way for us, for our governance, and for our course as a nation.
With that being said, this has been the Black Powder Podcast, the only real libertarian podcast to ever exist. And as we close, we always say this, and I wish Tub was here because he didn't even say goodbye to me. Eric, I had the pleasure of saying a fond adieu. Michael White couldn't make it. Ovens O'Brien, we're talking to you too because she's another one of our people here. But with that being said, this has been the Black Powder Podcast. Live free or die. Wu-Tang forever.